Thank you for joining us from wherever you are. This morning, Organized Labour is set to have an emergency meeting over the ongoing controversy over the alternative debt exchange program by the Finance Ministry. The development comes in the wake of fresh proposals made by the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta. The new proposal is inviting the Board of Trustees of pension funds to permit the pension funds to be added to the ongoing domestic debt exchange program. Organized Labour had long maintained it will not participate in the restructuring program. However, the Civil and Local Government Staff Association of Ghana, CLOCSAG, broke away from an earlier agreement to declare their interest in the new proposal. Well, the National Labour Commission has directed the Finance Ministry to, within 14 days, ensure that the Professional Development Allowance of members of a Teachers and Education Workers Union, TEU, is paid. At a news conference in Accra, the leadership of TEU warned that it will resume its strike if the Finance Ministry fails to abide by the Commission's directive.
Our expectation is that the Minister of Finance will come out to say that the request which came from Fair Wages is being approved. And once it is approved, they will also give a date when the payment will be done. In fact, from what we gather from our intelligence, the letter from Fair Wages indicated that the payment should be effected in November 2023. So we expect Finance to come out to say, yes, this request is granted, and that come November 2023, the non-teaching staff would also receive the Professional Development Allowance.
Greater Accra Regional Chairman of TEU, Reverend Edupoku, said the union will withdraw its services if Finance Ministry fails to act within 2 weeks.
Labour Commission are given 2 weeks so that the response should come. And if the response should inure to their favor, then praise the Lord, everything will be fine. But it becomes adamant or opposite, then I can promise the government that all the alarms and all the red cards and all the placards and all the flats that we will hear, they should get ready for it because our people are really ready.
The Central Regional Chairman of TEU, Francis Odum, asked members to remain resolute and wait for directive from the national leadership.
The letter Fair Wage has written to them, we hope they will comply, and we think we'll get the approval at this time. And we want to say this in addition that without the approval, then we will advise our members to resume the strike we have suspended over 1 year now.
Launched by the Department of Communication Studies at the University of Ghana, has revealed that state actors, including political appointees and the police, are the worst perpetrators of attacks on journalists. Among other findings, the report captures the growing level of insecurity and poor working conditions for many journalists in the country. Christian Yale was there and has filed this report.
The 7-chapter report by the UG Department of Communication Studies and partners mirrors the poor working conditions of many media practitioners. Work without pay, recruitment challenges, and lack of healthcare support are just a few of the issues many journalists are bedeviled with.
The working conditions of journalists is very, very poor, and it makes the practice of journalism even more precarious than you would think it should be. And I really do think that media owners and media managers must be engaged on this very critical issue. Of concern is the politicization in media ownership and the fact that it's opaque, it's not transparent. And so we really don't know who is behind some of the media that we consume.
Many journalists, especially investigative journalists, are at risk of attacks in their professional duty. And in all of these, state actors, including political appointees and the police, are said to be the worst perpetrators of attacks on journalists.
Working conditions are not good. Journalists are not well catered for. Salaries are very low. In fact, they are very poorly paid. In some cases, not even paid at all. They don't get benefits. Most journalists don't get health care support, including even when they've suffered trauma in the line of work. A lot of journalists or media personnel are working without contracts.
She added that the financial health of many media outlets is nothing to write home about.
Financial health of the media in Ghana is not good. Most media organizations, it appears, are lucky when they break even. Otherwise, they are running at a loss. So the monies that come in are not enough to cover the expenses or the operational costs for running the media.
Executive Secretary of the National Media Commission, George Sapong, says the NMC will carefully study the report and take the necessary steps.
When it comes to the report, it has established firmly for us the state of the media, and all of us are going to study it very carefully. There are a number of things that some of us need to do as policymakers. We are going to very seriously. Our hope is that when God gives us another opportunity to meet over a report like this, we will be able to show how much progress we have made based on what we have learned from this report.
One thing that stands out in the report is content regulation. According to Professor Audrey Gajepo, the country lacks a framework for scrutinizing the content of some media outlets.
The lacuna has been occasioned because we don't have a broadcasting law. So we do have a problem. So we know that young people are susceptible to content that they consume. We know that false news and disinformation has become an epidemic. So there needs to be a sort of a framework that will help us address some of these issues and mitigate it.
State actors and policymakers were urged to restructure the various regulatory institutions to ensure a more vibrant media ecosystem in the country. Christian Yale, TV3 News, University of Ghana, Legon.
Let's bring you some updates on the controversy over the development of a La General Hospital. There's been some reassurance by the sector minister to residents of La and its environs that government is working towards the full realization of a project there.
We are getting some money from Agenda 111 to put there whilst we wait for IMF issues and things like that. The contractor is standing by. Immediately he gets a little money, he will start working. There's no problem with La any longer.
And residents of La have been protesting the continuous delay and abandonment of construction work on the demolished La General Hospital. Let's still stay with health because Minority in Parliament has taken on the Health Minister, Kwekwa Agyeman-Manu, for his assertion that some health service providers have been requesting payments from a national insurance card holders. But Ranking Member on the Health Committee, Kwabena Minta Kando, tells TV3 government has been shortchanging the reimbursement of the scheme. Here is a report by Komala Kluche.
It remains the only statutory insurance to healthcare for many, including the vulnerable and the poor. Well, as of January 2022, over 12 million people have been on the National Health Insurance Scheme. Government has touted its commitment to ensuring pro-poor policies remain its priority in its scheme of work. With the health sector that is seeing numerous challenges, including infrastructure deficit, the country's chief health spokesperson has resorted to lamentation.
It looks like health insurance is not working in our country at the moment. I'm a patient and I know what it is. And I interact with a lot of people, not only my constituency, not only my region, but elsewhere. And the complaints that are coming about how those who are subscribed to health insurance are treated in almost all our facilities. To the extent that even CS, some are paying more than 1,000 cedis from their pockets in quite a number of our facilities now, when that is on the health insurance benefit package list. So why should I use that harsh word, extort from the poor patients?
A position the minority finds intriguing.
If you have ministers who are supposed to solve problems, complaining to us back is very unfortunate. You know, this government has succeeded in making the National Health Insurance scheme unattractive to both the subscribers and then the service providers. For example, in 2023, the formula we made and the budget, the 2023 budget, government said they were going to take about 5.28 billion Ghana cedis from you and I in the name of National Health Insurance Authority. Now, when the National Health Insurance Authority brought their formula, which we approve annually, now the expenditure sits at 2.7 billion. Where is the difference? Government has taken the difference.
Figures from the Health Insurance Authority show a downward spiral in allocations to the scheme. The highest allocation of 86% was made to the fund in 2016, but from 2017, government released 77%, 32% in 2018, 57% in 2019, 34% in 2020, 6% in 2021, but 0% in 2022.
What answers do they give you about when they split the money, where the rest goes to? I mean, of course, it's supposed to go into the fund.
Yeah, so
if it doesn't go into the fund, where does it go to?
Yeah, so it goes into renting of presidential jets and other things. That's what it is.
Could this be the reason why some of the facilities are resorting to the cash and carry, as been lamented by the health minister? But what would he be doing differently now that he has become the chief complainer? Komla Kluche, TV3 News, Accra.
Let's move away from health and do energy now, because Sector Minister Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh has justified the increase in tariffs in order to make the Electricity Company of Ghana viable. The Sector Minister made the observation when he joined the ECG task force in its monitoring and debt recovery drive.
The exercise, which was launched on March 20, had a target of 5.7 billion cedis to be realized. Sector Minister Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh joined the task force.
Everybody must prioritize paying electricity. We should really look back for when we were not enjoying electricity and we were all having generators. And if you like, all of you do a study. Switch off your ECG prepayment system, don't pay for 1 month, and use generator for 1 month and compare the bills.
He justified increment in tariffs to make ECG more viable.
Last year and this year, everything has increased. Your house rent has increased, your food cost has increased, your transportation cost has increased. So how could ECG have functioned within that period without increasing tariff? It beggars belief. Workers have even called for a cooler or things, support, or the realities. So we all have to understand that without energy, there is no economy.
The team also visited some of its high-paying customers
that are doing regular payment, that need support necessarily for their work and encouragement, and also be shown as one of the companies that people should emulate. So there are all sides to it, and this one's of such companies.
Electricity consumers are encouraged to pay even when ECG delays in billing them and report power illegalities. 2.5 billion cedis has so far been collected out of a target of 5.7 billion cedis in the special revenue mobilization exercise.
Now, the National Peace Council has resolved to facilitate the return to the Inter-Party Advisory Council of the National Democratic Congress, the NDC. This came up during a meeting of the parties following some unsavory comments that had been made by leaders of the two parties at the instance of the Peace Council. Judith Alchitando was there.
Since the 2020 general elections, the NDC has not participated in any inter-party advisory committee meeting. The party attributed the boycott on what it believes is the EC chair's display of bias, lack of candor, and duplicity during the 2020 election period. In January this year, the National Peace Council made a call on the leading opposition party to return to IPAC. However, the call has still not been adhered to. In a closed-door meeting with various political parties, the National Peace Council resolved to facilitate the return of the NDC to IPAC. CPP General Secretary Nanaya Jantwa disclosed this in an interview with TV3.
Collectively, all the political parties, for the NDC to come to IPAC. and they boycotted IPAC for so long. And we think that for the conversation to be complete, they should make themselves available. And the Peace Council was urged to facilitate the process of reconciliation between the NDC and the EC.
The meeting with the Peace Council sought to resolve issues raised as a result of the insightful statements made by key members of the parties. Chairman of the council, Reverend Ernest Edujimfi, warned that the country could be plunged into chaos if political parties are not mindful of their comments.
But gradually, we realize that the whole tempo is increasing. And at this point, the Peace Council thinks that if we don't make an intervention, we are heading towards a certain danger.
The National Peace Council has been accused of being silent regarding the insightful comments made by both parties. But reacting to this, Chairman of the Council says concerns that the Peace Council is adamant in quickly responding to issues of national peace and security are false.
Consistently, we are being told the Peace Council is asleep. They only talk when there's elections. Let me draw the attention of the public to the fact that currently there are 292 cases on the lap of the Peace Council across this country. Out of that, 112 are chieftaincy issues. The council is not a paid job. There's nobody on the Peace Council who is being paid a salary. These are eminent members who have sacrificed to serve their nation. And therefore, when people are calling, where's the Peace Council, they are riding V8 and all of, they are all riding their own cars.
It is the first meeting between the council and parties concerning the recent happenings. Judith Awachitando, TV3 News.
Let's do some entertainment now. Two persons are this morning claiming ownership of a sample of Canadian rapper Drake's Calling My Name track. Ghanaian rapper Obrafo is in a suit demanding $10 million for copyright infringement over the sampling of his 2003 remix, Oyohene. The legendary Obrafo maintains Drake's use of Killer Cut Bloodline in the 2022 Honestly Nevermind album was unlawful. But there is a fresh twist involving founder of Charlie Water Street Arts Festival, Manche Aikwe, who is also making a copyright claim to the same line in the song. Then Obrafo's opening.
Killer cut blood, killer cut. Killer cut blood, killer cut.
That is a subject of a $10 million copyright lawsuit against the Grammy award-winning artist Drake. The lawsuit argues the copying of the sampled phrase in the infringing work is so direct in nature that the audio of a sampled phrase heard in the infringing work contains little or no audible manipulation, processing, or other alteration to its original character as heard in the copyrighted work. The Kasiebo hitmaker Obrafo is seeking at least $10 million in compensation, citing all profits and damages in the categories attributable to the infringement, including album sales, downloads, sponsorships, digital revenue, and concerts that Drake performed following the release of a song. Obrafo's legal representative, Imran Ansari, is quoted by the Daily Mail as indicating that since the infringing work was released, Drake's Calling My Name track has already been streamed over 4.1 million times on YouTube, over 47,000 times on Spotify, and streamed tens of millions of times on Apple Music. But hang on. It has emerged Drake had earlier sought permission to use the work, but his request was turned down. Lawyers for Obrafo now have a simple claim. In the case filed in the Southern District of New York, they are asking the court to enter into judgment that the defendant willfully infringed Obrafo's copyrighted work in violation of the Copyright Act, among other reliefs. But guess what? Co-founder of Charlie Water Street Arts Festival, Manche Aikwe, has joined in to lay claim to the sample. Manche is usually the voice that introduces music works produced by Hammer of the last two, and on the particular Oyohene track, he opened it. This is Manche.
Killer cut blood, killer cut. Killer cut blood, killer cut.
Hammer has not passed up an opportunity to hail Manche and his art.
Manche is the enigma that is my signature. And what you hear him do on my works is actually him approving of my work.
And so Killer Cut is now being claimed by Manche, who has called out Obrafour on social media. In a series of tweets, he said, the intellectual property, more specifically the Killer Cut sound, which was sampled in Drake's song Calling My Name, belongs to me, Manche Ayikwe, and not Obrafour. He noted rights to the said Killer Cut sound were never relinquished to Obrafour and was used by Hammer, producer of Obrafour's album, on Obrafour's song as he did with others. Obrafour's team are yet to respond to Manche's claims, but the Chalewater curator maintains his intellectual property rights and claim over all his artistic works, including the Killer Cut sound sampled off the Oyohene remix used on Obrafour's album. Manche Ayikwe insists that although Obrafour has an interest in the matter, he is not the owner of a right and cannot assert it, and definitely not alone or make any demands for sole compensation for its use.
Remix.
And in sports, Manchester City, AC Milan and Inter Milan, as well as Real Madrid, will vie for the final 2 spots in the UEFA Champions League. The European club top football fiesta, which will culminate at Istanbul, is about to begin. 3 Sports' Rekwan Pofo has been examining what's in store.
The final 4 of the UEFA Champions League is set. We have AC Milan, Inter Milan, Real Madrid, and then Manchester City. Interestingly, out of these 4 teams, the bookies' favourite, Manchester City, are the only side left in the competition yet to win it. And Pep Guardiola's men would be aiming for that elusive title individually for the Spanish coach and then for Manchester City as well, as they are yet to win it in their history. In their way is defending champions Real Madrid, familiar opponents that they met last season in the semi-finals and only narrowly lost 6-5 on aggregate after that capitulation at the Bernabeu. Pep Guardiola will be looking not to repeat similar mistakes from last season, and it would be a different side because Erling Haaland is part of the team and he heads into the semi-finals as the top scorer of the competition. And so it's one game that a lot of eyes would be on, especially because if you look at the tree of the tournament, the favourites and likely to win the tournament would most likely be coming from that bracket where Manchester City face Real Madrid. But on the other end, where it looks like the underdog tag has overshadowed that side, is an Italian an all-Italian affair between Inter Milan and AC Milan. It's the first time both sides are meeting in the Champions League since 2005. A bit of history that Inter would not be too happy about, because the last time that happened, they lost by 5-0 against AC Milan. Now, why this tie is extremely important is that looking at the domestic form of these two sides, the Champions League could play a key role into their route in Europe next season. And so both sides will want to head into the final and win the competition because their top 4 slot is not guaranteed. So it's a lot to look forward to. Istanbul awaits for the final 2 teams. Who would it be?
And on that note, we wrap up the news here on New Day. There's a lot more if you log on to 3news.com. I am Komla Adom. Handing over now to Roland and Bella. Good morning, guys.